Hello everyone, my name is Zenitsu, and I'm back with another Digimon deck profile video. So today I'm going to be taking a look at BT-05, and BT-05 gives us a lot of new and exciting tools to be playing around with, but today is going to be a more casual deck, and it is going to be a themed-based deck, with the theme being about the Banchos. So for those who don't know, the Banchos are a group of Digimon. There's a total of 5 Banchos, and it looks like in the Digimon TCG, right now the Banchos are just going to be split between 2 colors. So the 2 colors Banchos are going to primarily be in is going to be green and black. So it looks like 3 of them are going to be in green, and then 2 of them are going to be in black. We're only missing 1 Bancho currently in the game, so I figured it would be interesting to build a green Bancho deck using what we currently have. So without further ado, onto the deck profile. First up, starting with the Digitama, I'm going to be running 1 copy of Argomon. So Argomon is a pretty decent Digitama still, just because he has this nice inheritable ability where during your turn, when this Digimon becomes unsuspended during the unsuspend phase, then you get to gain 1 memory. So this is still just a pretty good ability just because it helps us gain memory, and when we're digivolving into our megas, half the time we actually want our Digimon to be suspended, so that way when it's unsuspended during our unsuspend phase, if the Digimon lives, then we get to gain 1 memory with Argomon. But as far as the main Digitama of the deck goes, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Minomon. So Minomon is just really in here to fulfill a DP boosting role, so if you really wanted to use any other Digitama to DP boost your Digimon, you're more than welcome to do so. I just like what Minomon is doing because it's on a when attack trigger, where if we're attacking into one of our opponent's Digimon, then we get the 1000 DP that way. But this could be really anything you want, and same thing with the other Digitama of the deck, it could really be anything you want. I just feel like DP boosting is still just very valuable and very important. Next, on to the rookies, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Agumon. So this is the green Agumon from BT-02, and this Agumon is pretty good because it has this nice inheritable ability where during your turn, this Digimon gains plus 1000 DP, so that way we have another way of trying to DP boost our Digimon so that they're as powerful as they possibly can be going into our turn. Next, I'm going to be running 2 copies of Terriermon. So Terriermon is another really decent Digimon just because he has this nice powerful ability where during all turns, your opponent can't gain memory except by tamer effects. So this is just really powerful and really important at shutting down and locking out certain decks and certain strategies. So Terriermon is just a really good card for his ability. Next, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Tentomon. So this is the starter deck version of Tentomon, and this Tentomon is really good because it's acting as some card draw for the deck, which green generally has a lack of card draw outside of just digivolving and gaining a card from digivolving. So the fact that we have Tentomon to have a nice on-play ability to check the top card of our deck, and if it's a green Digimon, then we get to add it into our hand, otherwise it goes to the bottom. So there's just going to be a very high chance that this card is going to succeed, basically making his ability like we're drawing cards, and we really want to draw cards as often as we possibly can. And then the last rookie of the deck is going to be 4 copies of Palmon. So this is the starter deck Palmon, and Palmon is in here for a very similar reason why Agumon is in here, where the whole goal of this card is to just use it to DP boost our Digimon to make them as powerful as we possibly can during our turn. So Palmon is just fulfilling that role in a very similar fashion to Minomon. So it has a very similar style of inheritable ability where when attacking, if you're attacking into one of your opponent's Digimon, then this Digimon gains plus 2000 DP for the turn. So while Minomon's only a 1000 boost, Palmon is a 2000 boost, so just the combination between the two just make attacking into the opponent's Digimon a very good thing to do because you're going to be rewarded by having your Digimon be very strong. Next, onto the champions, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Vegiemon. So this is a flex spot for the deck. It could really be anything you feel like you want it to be, but I just feel like Vegiemon is still just really good just because it's a very tempo efficient and very powerful card. So what it's doing is it has a low play cost, low evo cost, and decent DP, just making it a very good card to be playing. Next, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Kabuterimon. So this is kind of another flex spot of the deck. It could kind of be whatever you feel like you want it to be, but I feel like for what this deck is trying to do, Kabuterimon is still looking to be very good because he has this nice inheritable ability where during your turn, this Digimon gets plus 1000 DP for every suspended Digimon the opponent has. So if the goal is to try to DP boost our Digimon, then this is just another way of DP boosting our Digimon, ensuring that they're going to be as strong as they possibly can be during our turn. And then the last champion of the deck is going to be 4 copies of Kabuterimon. So this is the starter deck version of Kabuterimon, and this is going to be the primary blocker slot of the deck. So if you wanted to, you could run Woodmon in complements to it or instead of it if you really feel like it. But what Kabuterimon is doing is it has the nice low evo cost, making him very tempo efficient, although he does have only 5,000 DP, which is a little bit more susceptible to certain forms of removal. But still, just having a very tempo-efficient blocker is looking to be very good. Next, onto the ultimates, I'm going to be running 1 copy of Argomon. So this is the level 5 Argomon, and we're running 1 copy because it is limited to 1 as of right now, and this card is still very good just because it has the Digisorption ability where we get to suspend one of the Digimon on our field to reduce his evolution cost by 3. So basically that means when we're Digivolving up into him outside of the raising area, he's going to evo for 0, and that's just really tempo efficient to get into our megas as quickly as we possibly can. And when we Digivolve into our megas, half the time we don't necessarily care if they're suspended or not, just because of what the megas are doing. And then on top of that, he also has another inheritable ability, which is really good, where it's a when attacking inheritable ability, we get to play 1 green level 3 Digimon from our hand suspended for free. So being able to spawn extra bodies on the field is always really, really nice, especially if the opponent can't punish us by having our Digimon be suspended, just because it adds a lot of extra board presence and pressure onto the opponent. Next, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Blossomon. So Blossomon is another really good Digimon to be running, similar to Argomon level 5, for its Digisorption ability. So as I mentioned before with Argomon level 5, it also has the Digisorption 3 ability, where you get to suspend 1 Digimon on your field. It also could include this Digimon to Digivolve this basically for 0, and again, the idea is we're trying to get up into our megas as fast as we possibly can, so Blossomon is just a really good card at helping us do that. And then the last ultimate of the deck is going to be 4 copies of Dinobeemon. So Dinobeemon is a pretty interesting card to be using in this style of deck, just because half the time we actually do want to Digivolve into our Digimon suspended. So this card allows us to do that just because we could actually aggress with Dinobeemon very safely, just because he has the piercing ability natively, so he's going to ensure that we're going to be dealing damage, and he's going to ensure that he's going to be living, just because he has the jamming ability. So between those 2 abilities, he could aggress it very safely onto the opponent, and then we just Digivolve into our Mega right after we swing with him, so he's just looking to be a very good Digimon for that type of utility. Next, onto the Megas, I'm going to be running 2 copies of Bancho Stingmon. So Bancho Stingmon is a pretty underrated Mega in this current meta and this current environment, just because he has this nice when attacking ability, where if you're attacking into one of the opponent's Digimon with 12,000 or more DP, then this Digimon gains plus 7,000 and security attack plus 2, which is already looking to be pretty strong on top of any other DP boosts and other abilities we have to pair up with him. And then on top of that, he natively has the piercing ability, ensuring that he's going to be dealing damage, whether it's just the 1 check or the boosted checks. It's looking to be a really good card to be using overall. Next, I'm going to be running 3 copies of Bancho Leomon. So Bancho Leomon is kind of, I want to say the center card. He's not really the center card, but he's definitely helping the other megas of the deck out quite a lot because of his on-delete ability, where we get to suspend up to 2 of the opponent's Digimon. So this is really good because we do have ways of utilizing this card, just because the on-delete ability on a high-level Digimon means that he's going to relatively be aggressive, and we could even use this card defensively by Digivolving into him suspended, so that way if the opponent wants, they could attack into him, but if they do attack into him and they do delete him, they are going to have to suffer his on-delete ability, even though it doesn't seem like it's a lot. Just having the ability to suspend the opponent's Digimon is looking to be really good because of all of the types of interactions that we're playing around with. So we could use his ability to suspend a Digimon, so that way Bancho Stingmon can then use his ability to attack into it and deal lots of damage, just as a quick example. So it's not like Digivolving into him suspended, leaving him vulnerable is a bad thing because of his on-delete ability. And then we do have that similar line of play with Bancho Lilymon to try to utilize her ability, and and as such, we're running 2 copies of Bancho Lilymon because she's acting very similar to Bancho Leomon. It's just her ability is a little bit more conditional on how you could utilize it, but the fact that her ability is acting as some form of removal is looking to be pretty good. So her on-delete ability more specifically states that you get to return one of the opponent's suspended Digimon to the bottom of their deck, and then trash all of their Digivolution sources. So that's looking to be pretty good because, again, it is acting as some form of removal, and having some removal to try to deal with the potential threats is really good. Again, if we just Digivolve into her suspended, leaving her vulnerable, then the opponent swings and deletes her, then she's going to basically have this like pseudo-retaliation, and to be able to bottom deck whatever just deleted her. So that's already looking to be pretty good, and we do have Bancho Leomon to try to force the opponent's Digimon suspended, so that way we can try to utilize her on-delete ability on one of the Digimon that Bancho Leomon suspended. So there is just a couple of different combo plays between all of our different megas in the deck, and that's why they're all looking to be pretty good, and they all kind of fit and meld into one deck nicely. And then on top of that, we do also run level 7s, so I'm going to be running 2 copies of Chaosmon. So Chaosmon is absolutely fantastic for the deck, just because he natively has the piercing ability, and he also has this when Digivolving ability. We get to unsuspend this Digimon, and we get to attack into one of the opponent's Digimon, and this effect allows us to attack into their unsuspended Digimon as well. So this is looking to be pretty powerful because what's also really good about this ability is the fact that even if the memory goes over onto the opponent's turn, we still get to finish the attack off just because that is the part of the ability, and we have to fully resolve the ability before the turn passes onto the opponent. So the fact that we could Digivolve all the way up into our Megas and have our Mega be suspended, then it ends the turn off by Digivolving into Chaosmon to unsuspend the Digimon and swing with, is looking to be pretty good, and even if not, we don't see him right away, then just having our Megas have their on-delete abilities de-incentivizing the opponent from actually wanting to delete our Megas just gives us enough time to figure out ways to find Chaosmon, to try to Digivolve one of our Megas into Chaosmon to try to use him and win the game off of Chaosmon. And then on top of that, we also have Chaosmon Volderarm, so I'm choosing to run 1 copy of it. You could go either way on however combination you want off of your Chaosmons. It's just this is what I generally have settled with, just because Volderarm is still really good. He's just a little bit more conditional in this type of a deck than the other Chaosmon because of how we're playing our cards. So what this Chaosmon is doing is he has a nice when Digivolving ability to activate his ability twice of reducing one of the opponent's Digimon's DP by 7,000 for the turn. So this is really good because you could use it as some very flexible form of removal to delete 2 low-level targets or to combine it and delete 1 high-level target. So it's just really good there. And he also has his own on-delete ability of gaining 3 memory, which kind of just fits with how the cards have been playing and what they want to do. So if we do end up Digivolving him suspended, we don't care that he's vulnerable because we want his on-delete ability off and we want the opponent to try to deal with it, and if they can't, then he's just going to be applying constant pressure until they do. So he's just a really good card for that, on top of all of the synergy that we've been playing with in the deck. Next, onto the options, I'm going to be running 1 copy of Hidden Potential Discovered. So Hidden Potential Discovered is a really good card to be running for this deck, mainly for our level 7s, because it's allowing us to reduce one of our Digivolutions off of one of our green Digimon by 5 by suspending one of our Digimon on the field. So this is just really powerful because it allows us to basically just get up into our level 7s very efficiently and very easily. And with Chaosmon especially, we don't care if we are suspending one of our Megas in order to Digivolve, just because he's going to unsuspend himself. So this card allows us to set up some very powerful moves, on top of which they might not be anticipating a Hidden Potential Discovered play, and they can't really play around it because it is a one-of, so it's just looking to be very powerful for that, on top of the fact that it also has the security ability to add itself back into our hand, so that way if it's checked in the security, it's just not a dead card. And then the last option of the deck is going to be 2 copies of Needle Spray. So Needle Spray is another really good card at just resting or suspending the opponent's Digimon down. So its main ability is to, well, suspend one of the opponent's Digimon down with the nice security ability of activating its main, then the card gets added back into your hand, so that way you could reuse it again. So we do need to suspend some of the opponent's Digimons down to get their abilities off, so having a way outside of our Digimon to suspend the opponent's Digimon is looking to be pretty good. And then the last card and only tamer of the deck is going to be 2 copies of Mimi. So this could really be any memory fixing tamer you feel like you want to be running, as long as it's a memory fixing tamer, just because all of our high level evos are for 3 at least until we get to our level 7s. But regardless, this could be any memory fixing tamer you feel like you want to use. I just feel like Mimi is really good for the deck because of her main ability to allow us to basically get another raising phase as long as we have a level 5 or higher green Digimon in play. So this is really good because we want to try to get up into our megas as quickly as we possibly can to try to take advantage of the synergies and to try to get some extra card draws to go into either of our Chaosmons to try to close out the game that way. So just the fact that she is accelerating and facilitating us being able to get multiple Digimon out quick enough is why I prefer Mimi over the other memory fixing tamers you could possibly run. And then there's just a whole bunch of other cards that you could think about running in the deck. So if you are looking at alternate tamers, you could consider running Davis, just because he is a memory fixing tamer, and his on-play ability helps us look for green Digimon, so it's acting as some pseudo card draw. If you wanted to, you could also think about running Takumi, just because, again, green doesn't have lots of card draw, and Davis and Takumi help with fixing that problem. On top of that, you also have Ken as another generic memory fixing tamer, just because we're also trying to attack into the opponent's Digimon, and he's rewarding us by gaining us a memory for attacking into the opponent's Digimon, and ours survives the battle. If you don't want to run a memory fixing tamer, then you could consider running a duo tamer. So we do have Izzy and Mimi as a good duo tamer, just because for the opponent having a suspended Digimon, we get to gain 2 memory. So it's not hard for green to force the opponent to have a suspended Digimon, or just them naturally going to have a suspended Digimon because they're going to want to attack or do various other actions. So Izzy and Mimi gaining you 2 memory for that is looking to be pretty good. On top of which, it also has another really nice ability where when we're attacking with a green level 5, then we get to reveal the top 3 and digivolve into a green level 6 from among them, and then the rest go to the bottom. So this allows our level 5s to be even more aggressive, so it's a really good card to consider thinking about utilizing. And then we do have some other interesting tamers that you could be running. So I already mentioned Takumi. You could also run Izzy, just because if we are trying to double down and focus on suspending the opponent's Digimon a little bit more, then Izzy allows us to gain a memory for suspending the opponent's Digimon, which is pretty decent. It's not the greatest in the world, but it's not the worst. It just makes some of our rest effects a little bit more efficient. And on top of that, we also have the Matt from the starter deck to also think about, just because this version of Matt allows us to gain a memory when one of our Digimon gets deleted. So we are trying to take advantage of some on-delete abilities, and we do have other purple cards to be playing around with if we do want to try to force our on-delete abilities to activate more often. So Matt is a good card at making those types of cards efficient. So we do have Chimeramon to just hard play and delete one of our Digimon to delete one of their Digimon. So we could use this to trigger our on-delete abilities. Same with Deathclaw, where it's basically the same thing as Chimeramon, except an option form, and for level 4 or lower Digimon with a nice security ability as well. And you also have Heat Viper as just another sacrifice outlet card, on top of Back for Revenge to think about it, just because that's a card to be comboing with these types of cards. Then we do have some other on-delete effects in green we could be playing around with. So we do have Wormmon from BT-03, where his on-delete ability allows us to look at the top 3 cards and add a level 4 or 5 from among them into our hand. So it's acting as some pseudo card draw. And then we do have Kokuomon to just act as some extra aggressive push, just because he has this nice ability where while this Digimon is level 6 or higher, then it gains security tech +1. So a good way at trying to delete our own Digimon without us really needing to do anything is by giving them multiple security checks, so that way they have a higher chance of them losing to a security check or checking an option, and then the opponent's forced to use it. So he is just a good card to think about using. On top of that, we also have some other very good cards that are just really good and generic for green. So you could think about running Stingmon, just because it's doing almost the same thing as Ken, except as an inheritable. Then we have Vegiemon to act as a level 5 blocker that evos for 2, along with a whole bunch of other cards that evo for 2 in the level 5 slot to be that much more tempo efficient. And then on top of that, we also have Lilamon to try to use her Digiburst ability to suspend the opponent's Digimon down. So that way we could utilize a lot of our various other abilities, on top of the fact that she also has a nice when attacking inheritable ability to try to suspend the opponent's Digimon down as well. And then we also have Mega Kabuterimon as just another payout card to deleting the opponent's Digimon by battle, so that way he's just going to be burning the opponent's security, so we don't even need piercing with him. And then we do have other cards to interact with the fact that their Digimon are suspended, like Terrace Cluster, to just do something with the fact that they are suspended. And yes, I'm very aware that this is not going to be a highly competitive deck. If you do want to make it competitive, you could just play literally almost any other green deck, and it would probably work a little bit better. Just because if you wanted to go Chaos Turbo, like full Chaos Turbo, you have Titamon and Sarismon and some other Digizorption cards to really play with that type of strategy. Or if you wanted to, you could just play Nidhoggmon because Nidhoggmon is stupid, along with all of the other green level 6s that interact with Digiburst, just because in BT-05, Digiburst did get a lot of support, and there's just a lot of other very good cards to be using. So yes, this is not going to be the most competitive deck in the world, but it's still a really fun deck that is trying to fit with the theme of just playing around with Banchos. But for the most part, this is the deck, and it's a relatively budget-friendly deck for the most part. Like I said, there's just a lot of different things and parts and pieces you could change out if you really want to make it more budget-friendly, on top of green already being super budget-friendly as is. But it's a really unique deck to be playing around with, just because you're actually trying to use your level 5s and some of the other tools a little bit different than what green's generally used to. So that's why cards like Dinobeemon are actually pretty decent outside of the Imperial Digimon line, just because we want to Digivolve into our Megas rested, so that way they are vulnerable to be attacked into, so that way it's an alternate way of trying to get the on-delete ability off, and if the opponent chooses not to swing into us, then we could use our level 6s to go into a level 7, or threaten them because they have their own on-delete abilities that we're going to be trying to get off ourselves on our turn by swinging and applying pressure into their security. So it's a really fun and interesting deck, and yes, it's not competitive, but it is something different and new to be playing around with. So that's all I really have for this video. As always, feel free to tell me your thoughts down in the comments below, and down in the description below are a couple of different ways you could support me and the channel. So I do have a TCG Player affiliate link, so when you use that link to buy cards off of TCG Player, then some of that money will go to supporting me and the channel. I also do make and sell playmats over on Overcard Gamers on Facebook, so when you buy a playmat with my design, then some of that money will also go to help supporting me and the channel. And on top of all of that, I do have a Twitch account over on twitch.tv/Zenitsu, so giving me a follow and a subscription also helps support me there, and I do play Digimon on top of various other games on that platform as well. So thank you everyone for watching, and as always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content, and I'll see you in the next video.